Thank you all for being here. Hey, before we get started, William, are we live on the live stream? Thumbs up? Good. The lights here are killer, too. I just stared into that bright light. Hey, before we get started, I want to take care of the most important announcement. I want to say hey to two little boys at home that are watching this live stream, my kids, Grayson and Sullivan. Daddy loves you very, very much, and I can't wait to see you again. And how cool is that to be able to do that? Isn't that cool? Ooh, that's awesome. Nothing beats the joy of kids. And anyway, most of you know what I'm talking about. So anyway, all right, so welcome. How many first-timers do we have here tonight? I see a lot of hands. If you're here for the first time, thank you very much for joining us. I don't know how you found out about us, but regardless, thank you for being here. Many, many places that you could be here, tonight in town. There are a lot of events going on. It's a work night. A lot of you have families, friends, other things that you could be doing, but you've decided to be with us, and we really, truly appreciate that. Thank you very much. We host this meetup. We host meetups every month. We also host 2 conferences over the course of the year. Our next conference is in March 23rd and 24th in Durham. It's an AI-focused event, which this one is tonight as well. And then, of course, we're the creators, the hosts of All Things Open that takes place in October right here in downtown Raleigh every year. And this year, that event will take place October the 18th through the 20th. We do have a code of conduct. Everyone here knows that. I don't need to tell you that, but we always say it out loud at the beginning of all of our events. The bottom line is just treat people as you would like to be treated while you're here, be respectful, etc. I know we won't have any issues. We never do. We really never have, but we always state that because codes of conduct are very important to us. This is our official kickoff for 2026, so we're very excited about the new year. Last year, we hosted, I think, 15 events over the course of the year, and we're looking to do at least that many in 2026. So this is going to be an exciting year, and we're thrilled that you join us as we kick it off. So, and I'm sure the year is going to be great for you as well. It's going to be the best one ever. Excuse me. Thanks to IMAX. Obviously, you're here at the IMAX Theater. They're our host tonight. We've hosted this event here for the last 3 or 4 years. IMAX is a fantastic partner. We're very grateful. Marbles Museum. This is a fun place to bring family. It's a fun place to watch a movie and a fun place to attend a technology event. So thanks to IMAX. And Mark Vavra is our primary point of contact. So Mark's done a great job with us. Our next meetup is going to be February the 10th, which I believe is a Tuesday evening. We're going to be in Mooresville at Wake Tech. So we're going to come out with that announcement here tomorrow, most likely tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that. Again, we host a meetup every month and then 2 conferences, one in March and then one in October. Speaking of the AI conference, again, March 23rd and 24th, that'll be in downtown Durham at the Durham Convention Center in the Carolina Theater. How many people here were at the AI event, our inaugural first ever AI event last year? Very cool. So you know what I'm talking about. It was wild. I'm not sure we could have fit another human being in the Carolina Theater. We nearly got shut down multiple times, and I was praying the entire time, please just don't shut us down in year 1. That would not be a good way to get things started. But in the end, we were very grateful. Attendance was great, and we expect this year to be much bigger, believe it or not. So much so that we now will be in the Durham Convention Center and in the Carolina Theater. So those of you that attended last year, everything was confined to the Carolina Theater. This year we've added the DCC as a venue as well. So that's going to be very, very cool. All Things Open next October, the 18th through the 20th. And yeah, we see people coming in. If you're coming in and you see a hand raised, the hand raised is an indication that there's an open seat beside of that person. I think we've still got a couple down here in the front row, so you could actually come across and come down that way. So anyway, all right. And then again, ATO, it'll be our 14th year 14th of hosting the All Things Open Conference. Difficult to believe, hard to believe that much time has gone by. But year 13, this last October, I think 6,500 or 6,600 registrations, and people joined that event, attended from all over the world. It was really cool, and hopefully a lot of you were able to attend that. With all that said, tonight's agenda, sort of the run of show, we are going to do 7 talks from 7 world-class speakers. The topic is AI. I know there's some AI fatigue. I've heard it. You read a lot about AI, right? AI fatigue is a real thing. However, AI is not going anywhere, whether we want it to or not. It's not going anywhere. So we believe that the more education you can get about the topic, the better, and the better off you're going to be from a marketability standpoint, from a career standpoint, from just a networking standpoint, et cetera, et cetera. So the focus of tonight is going to be AI, and our 7 speakers will talk about really the one big idea that each of them have within the context or under the umbrella of AI, and they're going to tell you about that for 10 minutes each, and then we're going to try to wrap talks up in here by 8 o'clock, and then we'll go back out into the lobby for about a half hour of networking before we leave. So that's sort of the run, just a very high-level run of show. Thank you all for being here once again. We truly appreciate it. Before you leave, if you have a question, find me. I'll be happy to give you the answer. If I don't have the answer, I'll get it for you. Give me a fist bump. Give me a hug. I'd love to meet you. I know that sounds folksy, maybe, or even weird. I hope it doesn't sound weird. But with all the technology, those of you here that are here for the first time, it might. Those of you that have been here before, it sounds totally normal. I'm a hugger. Sorry, guilty. I'm also a fist bumper these days at post-COVID. Pre-COVID, big hugger. Post-COVID, big fist bumper. But I still give hugs as well. Not the weird, creepy ones, but the cool ones, like the shoulder, plenty of space, all that stuff. Totally respectful. But as much as the technology matters, and as cool as the tech is, and I love the tech as you all do, the people are still what makes all this work and what makes all this matter. And we love the people, and we've always taken a people-first approach to technology, and I think that's one of the reasons why we're still around 15 years later. So find me, find a member of our team, and get to know us, and we'd love to see you at a future event. So with all that said, thank you very much. I'm going to turn it over to Mark Hinkle. Mark is not only a good friend of mine, but he is fantastic at what he does. He creates and sends out a newsletter that's read by hundreds of thousands of people, runs multiple companies. He's been in the startup space. He's been in the tech space for 20-plus years. I think he's done some really amazing things. And as I always say, most importantly, what's most important to me is he's a heck of a nice person. He's a great human being, and he's very good. He's very knowledgeable, but he's just super, super nice, and I'm sure that'll come across very quickly. So, Mark, come on up. You're going to MC this. You're going to speak first, and then you're going to MC the rest of the way. So thank you.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it. Yeah. All right. Oh, yeah, I didn't hug him.
You missed my hug, man.
Oh, come on. Get that on camera. All right. All right. Thanks for coming out tonight. Before we start the program, I always do this when I speak at one of Todd's events. You can't even imagine how hard it is to organize events, get 300 strangers together once a month, and do something that educates them. And like I say, I do meetups for AI. Todd does it for open source. We do some together. But if you want to make a lot of money, do not do free meetups. If you want to make a lot of friends, I highly recommend that you build communities where you live. And that's why we do what we do. And I love it. I did this for a career Todd was being generous. I've been doing this for 30 years. And I have a baby face. It's the sort of Chris Farley look that I've perfected over my years of pizza and beer. But anyhow, we have 7 presentations tonight on AI. Some of it, this is all things open, but not all of AI is open. So we are going to go back and forth a little bit. But what we want you to walk away with is some learnings. We have some great people. We have people with, I won't put Eli on blast, but he's very well followed online. We have people from GitHub. We have folks from Amazon. We have faces I haven't seen here before, and that's super cool. So Todd asked me to talk about tools tonight, and here's sort of this was synced a minute ago, and now it's not, and it's frozen. Did I ever tell you that I started out as a tech support rep, and I've never stopped? Unfortunately, I just do it for myself now. Yeah, okay. All right. So that's who we have tonight on the schedule. Yes. Did it do it? It's very big, right? I will tell you that I saw one of the Star Wars movies here, and one of the people on there was like 80 feet tall, and I was sitting in the front row, and I got vertigo. So anyhow, what I am going to talk about is tooling in 2026. Got to check my watch because we're on a tight schedule tonight. And really, that's what Todd asked me to talk about. And I better put my glasses on or I'm going to make up some really cool facts, and none of it is there. But the thing that I really want you to take away from this is I'm going to talk about tools. But if you don't apply your own thinking and judgment to things, you're going to have problems. So the thing that's cool about AI stuff right now is you can actually create stuff. In the early days, machine learning, you would recognize patterns, but didn't create anything new. Now you can create, you can analyze, and if you're using agents or other tools, you can execute those tools to do things in the real world. Now, I'm not selling anything, but I think to get that understanding, I've done so many meetups that I just put it all online, and you can go get that for free at the aios.ai. It's not going to send you a lot of spammy offers or anything. It's just 14-day email course to give you that part. So that's the important part I want you to walk away with today. But I also want you to understand when you're using these tools, there's 4 different things that I think are, there's things that I think that you need to worry about for the risk when you try these tools. First is data privacy. If you're going to be doing your taxes in ChatGPT, which I do not recommend, someone else is going to see your social security number sometime, potentially. I'm not saying for sure, but potentially. So think about when you put your stuff into these tools, they're going to learn from your interactions. So think about that safety. You also have to think about the fact that if you make an error and you give it to AI that can do work at machine speed, do thousands of things every day, it's going to amplify your errors 1,000 times. So I don't want to scare you, but consider if you give it bad information, bad inputs, if you put clear text passwords in there and tell it to update your website, you potentially are going to leak that out. So that's a human error, not an AI. It's just doing what you gave it. And then there's the one that everybody in the back of their mind thinks about. It's the Terminator situation, the existential threat. And the reason I'm not so worried about it is because I spend every bit of my time out there educating people so we can make good decisions. I think that's, Skynet, the Matrix, all those things we think about. I went to Jetsons, so I'm going to talk about the world of the Jetsons. Some of you people aren't old enough to remember the Jetsons. And that means that I'm in my 50s and I'm old, but basically they had a robot that cooked and did the laundry. They had a little robotic butler. They had all sorts of robots that did stuff for you. That's what I want. I do not want them to enslave mankind and feed off of our life energy like we saw in the Matrix. So that's the scary stuff. 2026, here's my advice. How many people get a million different emails, texts, go to web pages? There's a new tool every day. So it's really hard to decide what to do. My advice to you is choose one of the 4 frontier models that are most popular. Actually, there's 3, but Microsoft Copilot is actually using ChatGPT on the back end. But if I'm giving you advice for 2026, I think you want to be competent with how to use these models because the patterns of giving it instructions and then evaluating what happens is where we want to start. If you have that as we add more tools, you'll probably be okay. So and most of us at work have access to one of 2. We probably have access to Google Gemini through Workspace or Microsoft Copilot through Microsoft 365. So you have access to those things. I'd also pick a backup. So I put on, and actually the funny thing is, all of these slides I didn't do, AI did. So this is sort of like my own choose my own adventure. But it did do what I told it to do. So I'm a big fan of Claude. Everybody knows ChatGPT. It's the #1 consumer app in the world. I would get really competent in those things. The next thing I would do is automate my menial work. And the menial work that I think every one of us gets is how many people don't get enough email? One dude. I like him. He's living in a tent in Umstead Park with no electricity. And I love that man because he's living life to his fullest. So email. One of the things I think is really good at is within your Copilot, in your Microsoft Office, in your Google with Gemini, it can help you do your email better. You can chat with your email. Google is sort of slow rolling out their things, but they're really getting better, and they have all your history, so it starts to write emails for you better. How many people get somebody has somebody in everybody's office that always says thanks. to the email and you open it up and there's nothing in there but thanks. And I'm like, that click is what pushed me into carpal tunnel. I hate that. But if you're using an agent, you can give it a filter that says, every time somebody just replies thanks, reply, you're welcome. So you make that person feel great. You propagate the cycle. You probably just like burned enough energy for like 3.5 trees for the thread, but you were polite. I actually also like 2 other ones I use. Actually, I've used a bunch of them. Shortwave is a cool one. None of these are open source, by the way. I'm going to talk a little bit about open source, but I think they're cool. They're very good at it. I use JACE, and I like it because it automatically reads all my email, tags it, and then writes a response that I can go edit. It could automatically send if I use the product. Anybody here use a product called Fixer? Okay, Fixer is one of the most popular ones. I have a friend whose admin automated all of her email and started a second business on the QT while she was supposedly doing his admin work. It was really good, except it used to get in fights with people. One of those people was me. And so I said, hey, why is your admin so mad at the world? He goes, I don't know, I should look into it. And then he looked into it and he's like, it's not the admin, it's the admin's agent. So speaking of agents, everybody's talking about agents right now. Agents aren't that big a deal. In essence, all they are a scheduling orchestration program that allows you to connect a large, well, typically now it's large language models, but it could connect AI models that have vision, multimodal capabilities like audio and language. It has, if it's good, it has memory, so when it does something, it can remember preferences and learn, just like a task worker. And it has the access to tools. And the tools are things that could write to Google Drive. They can look at my email and help me filter it, things like that. The tooling is cool, and it uses an open source standard called MCP. If you heard of MCP, sort of like the USB-C of AI. Basically what it does is it provides a consistent way for you to interact with other systems. It's really a cool open source standard. It's at the Linux Foundation. Nithya from the Linux Foundation and Amazon is going to talk a little bit later about governance. So it's a cool technology governed by a neutral body. There's 2 that I like today. If I was making a suggestion, the one is Manus. Has anybody seen Manus in the news? Meta just bought that right the week after Christmas for $2 billion. It was only around for 8 months, and I believe they were doing over 100 million in revenue. I think the first 2 million came from me because I was fascinated by it. It's sort of cool. Did anybody do the All Things AI Lunch and Learn today? So every Tuesday, All Things AI on meetup.com, we do a free lunch and learn. We try and cover stuff for people. Today, that's what we covered. The other things, if you're an open source, if you're developers, you want to build your own agents, we're going to talk about having your own model. We have Matt tonight from LlamaFarm. He does not farm llamas, he farms AI, but it's a cool name. You can run them on your laptop or your server. You can use something called Ollama. You can build agents using the products from LangChain, and you can get other models if you don't get them from LlamaFarm, from Hugging Face. It's sort of the GitHub from AI models. The thing that's cool about it, AI, is I'm a terrible drawer. I can actually create my own images, videos, etc. I like Sora 2 is probably the best in breed in video. That's from OpenAI. I also like Runway ML. They basically were trying to create their own platform to make movies with. Veed, V-E-E-D-I-O, is great for editing. And image generation. How many people have heard the words Nana Banana? Like, crazy thing. It was a code name. Everybody liked the name, so they didn't call it Gemini 3 image generation. They kept Nano Banana. So those are the tools that I think are easy to use and accessible today. If you want to hear more about this kind of stuff, as Todd said, we have All Things Open coming on the 23rd and 24th. It's 26.allthingsai. I said All Things Open, didn't I? I'm at All Things Open talking about all things AI, and I'm getting old and senile, so sorry I messed that up. But All Things AI is March 23rd, 24th in Durham, and we have meetups every month, virtually because a lot of people have other obligations. We try and do 30 minutes every Tuesday so you can learn something cool about AI without having to leave, come out. We're glad you're here tonight. You can't always do that, and then we record it and put it on YouTube. So that's me. If you want to connect with me, I'm on LinkedIn, MR Hinkle, pretty much everywhere. My middle initial is R. It's not unpretentious, or at least I don't think I am. So that's me. Thanks for coming tonight. Our next speaker, I've known for a long time. She's come to North Carolina about 8 years ago, I think. 6 years ago, because she knew where the cool people in tech lived. And her name is a good friend of mine, Nithya Ruff. So take it away, Nithya.
Yeah, in fact, it was coming to All Things Open that opened my eyes to Raleigh and what a great place this is, what a great community this is, and it brought me here. Very nice to be here. I'm going to talk about AI governance, particularly our role as a user. What is governance, right? So let me read you the definition online for governance. It's the system of rules, policies, processes, and ethical guidelines that ensures that artificial intelligence systems are developed, deployed, and used responsibly, safely, and in alignment with human values and legal standards, something that we all worry about. So I'm going to focus on what we as users can do to stay safe in the age of AI. And I think Mark covered some of those things, but let's move through this. Is it moving? All good. So we all tend to think, we can't imagine a world before AI, right? Because AI is such a hot topic right now. But AI was not an overnight success. I remember back in the 80s studying Ada in college, and people said, oh, it's the age of, it'll be used for AI, it'll shortcut, how we code, et cetera. And researchers have been working on AI for decades, literally decades, neuroscience as well as on algorithms, et cetera. But in the last few years, conditions really became ripe for AI. You have data centers and cloud and compute and GPUs became available, and data became plentiful because the internet was mature and was generating so much data. So you had this perfect storm where AI could become very viable. And of course, it has generated a lot of excitement, particularly when ChatGPT came out, right? Because we as consumers could directly then talk to AI and actually use AI and benefit from AI. And that's why we are all talking about it. I haven't come to a single tech conference in the last 3 years where there isn't a slide or a talk on AI. And all of our LinkedIn profiles now have a sprinkling of AI somewhere in our profile just to show, yeah, we are hip, we are with AI. But there's also a lot of uncertainty, doubt, and fear. There's so many fears. We'll lose our jobs, and Mark, I think, covered some of those. What if AI is biased, especially in job selecting candidates or giving loans to people, or what if AI, is in the hands of bad people and is used to do bad things? And with the scale of AI, with the intelligence of AI, will that then kind of erode trust, erode the world that we know? But, this is not new, right? With every technology we've worried about, what can go wrong? With the internet, we worried about it. And yes, technology can fall into the hands of bad guys, but it can also be used for a lot of good. And so we'll talk more about what can we do to protect ourselves, because inevitably there will be some bad with the good. The good news for us as users is that on many levels, there's a lot of good governance work going on. So we as users have our role to play, but there are lots of other layers of governance work that's going on. One is regulations. There are regulations like the AI Act, for example, in Europe, right? There are executive orders coming out from DC. There is a Cyber Resilience Act, which really is about security, but it'll help us also protect ourselves in the AI space. And states have been releasing, things to protect humans and their citizenry. Product testing, a lot of companies are taking that seriously and making sure hallucinations and drift and other things with models don't happen. And companies have policies, and organizations are putting policies in place as to what you can use, what you cannot use, how you can use your data, et cetera. And a lot of tools are putting guardrails in. And so these things give us some comfort that there is a level of governance happening. But frankly, I think we as users also need to be responsible users. We cannot just depend upon the benevolence of regulations and others doing their job. So I'll cover 7 things that we can do as users to protect ourselves. Number 1, I think Mark said this too, educate yourself. Don't sit on the sidelines. There's plenty of information out on the web. Of course, all things open, all things AI. Educate yourself. What is it? What are the models? How can I use it? What is it good for? Who does what? And keep on top of that, right? I mean, all of us have to be perpetual learners these days. You cannot just say, I finished college and I'm done learning. We have to constantly be learning. Number 2, use it and experiment with it. I think Mark gave us a fantastic list of tools that he uses, and it's a trusted list, right? So play with it. I mean, if you're into video editing, if you're into making music, if you're into fashion, if you're into writing, use the tool, experiment with it in small, simple ways, and keep building your competency and your knowledge of it. Number 3, do not share personal information, as Mark also said, because personal information becomes a part of the corpus of training and knowledge of that model. Yes, inside companies, sometimes we've built some firewalls and we keep that information inside the company, but company information, personal information on public models like ChatGPT, Gemini, I wouldn't share that. Number 4, trust but verify. So the outputs of AI, you cannot just take it ipso facto and use it. You've got to verify that it's accurate, that it's not hallucinating. You have to look at the references, look at the citations, where it got the information from, how it was trained. Make sure that you verify the information before you use it. Don't blindly use it. Frankly, for coders also, we've been saying, if it generates code, don't just blindly take that code and submit it. Make sure it is yours. Review it, understand it, test it. Make sure that you make it your own before you submit anything. Don't just blindly kind of give it to your AI agent. Frankly, AI is like an intern or a student, right? You would verify the work that comes out of your intern or your student. You wouldn't just kind of submit it to your boss and say, hey, here's the information. Know your organization's AI policy. I think all of our organizations have an AI policy. You really need to know that if you want to keep your job, but also so that you help your organization in its effectiveness, how to use the data, which models you can use, which you cannot use. If you want to bring in data from the outside, if you want to bring in a model from the outside, what are the due diligence steps that you need to go through, what kind of licenses you can use, etc. So I would highly recommend going in and checking out your policy in your company. Number 6, use AI ethically and responsibly. It is a powerful tool, so you have a choice to use it ethically for ethical things and not to use it for bad means. And I won't define what bad is, but you know what ethics is and what good and bad is and what responsible use is. Or if you don't know, check it out. Check Google, Gemini, check others to say, what does it mean to use it ethically? Not to rob people, not to bias against people, not to steal, all of those 10 commandments kind of thing. 7, I would say follow secure practices. And boy, oh boy, if you think scamming happens now with, the internet, think about the kinds of scams people can invent on AI. So watch out for fake people, fake news, fake emails, etc. Just make sure that you, again, check who it's coming from. Is it a trusted source? Is it spelled correctly, etc.? The kinds of things we do now with email. And with that, I'm going to then talk about why do we care so much about open source AI. I think we all intrinsically, as an open source community, believe that when we collaborate with each other, when we share code, when we share data, when we share models, that it creates a level of transparency, it creates trust. We put the tools, if you will, in the hands of people to remove bias, to remove prejudice, etc. And frankly, it helps companies and countries and others to adopt it and make it their own and customize it for their culture, values, etc. So that's why I think we need to continue to work in this world of creating open source models, creating more open source tools, open data, etc. I think that helps us as users protect ourselves and the people around us. If you want to know more about what my company is doing in AI, you can check out this page. And then I'll end the talk with just really reconfirming we all have a role to play in using AI responsibly, and I hope you will take that seriously and look at the 7 ways to use it safely. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Nithya. Our next speaker is Matt. His shirt says LlamaFarm, but he does not raise llamas. I think it's really cool that we have Matt here tonight. They are, him and his co-founder are graduates of Y Combinator, one of the most prestigious places to start your company in Silicon Valley, and he's here. So I'll let Matt talk about severing the tether, AI at the edge.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Matt Hamann. Let me point this up here a little bit. There we go. And I'm one of the co-founders and the CTO of LlamaFarm. And tonight, we need to talk about severing the tether. Basically, cutting our dependence on cloud AI and moving our AI workloads to the edge, whether locally or in our own data center and our IoT devices. Now, traditionally, for the past 25 plus years, we've been building apps kind of like this. And in the world of AI, we're kind of doing the same thing. We're building the app, or is it the agent in this case, right? And we're calling a cloud API. We're calling a cloud LLM. We're calling ChatGPT, Claude, things like that. And we're hoping that something is going to happen on the other side of it. We're going to get the response that we want. And every API call that we make is essentially a dependency that we don't control. It's a bill that we're going to have to pay, and it's a prayer that I hope this works. Now, sometimes this is fine. So over the holidays, I had a bunch of family in town, and some of them brought sourdough starter and put it in my fridge and left it for me. Now, I don't know the first thing about sourdough. I'm not really a bread baker, but I figured, hey, let's try this thing out. So I got on Google and I said, how do I make sourdough bread? I have the sourdough starter. How do I use it? And of course, I got 17 million results, and each one of them said that they had come up with like the perfect incantation to make the sourdough turn out every time. And here's like 6 pages of detail about how I arrived at this solution. And I said, okay, I can't read through all this. So I went to Gemini and said, hey, Gemini, how do I use this starter? And, I'm at home, I'm on the Wi-Fi, and it took, 30 seconds. I had to do some back and forth with it, ask it some other follow-up questions, and I got an answer. And eventually, I made sourdough bread. And actually, this is a picture of it right here. I think for the first loaf, it turned out okay. Thanks. This is what cloud AI was built for. If it doesn't work, I can come back later and try again. If my internet's down, it's okay. I won't have bread, but small price to pay. But not everything works quite like sourdough bread, right? Like maybe stoplights, for example. Cities around the world are constantly looking for ways of, building better infrastructure, improving traffic flow. And so AI is actually a really applicable technology for intersections where there's traffic lights, where we need to optimize the flow of cars through at different times of the day or different times of the week. But if you have to send telemetry up to a cloud LLM and wait for things to come back in order to do that optimization, you're going to just cause traffic to grind to a halt. Because if your AI can't respond, but by the time the light needs to turn green, it's not real time and it's not going to work. And this is just kind of the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot of other use cases where this is even bigger problem. Let's talk life or death, right? Imagine the hospital emergency department. There's patients coming in. There's patients already in beds. The doctors are running around. The triage nurse is overwhelmed. There's a whole bunch of data that they're likely collecting and not necessarily doing anything with, where AI could really help save lives on a daily basis, right? Monitoring vitals, putting things together, understanding, doctor's notes and things like that. If they're sending data to the cloud, number one, that's probably a privacy issue. But number two, the results may not come back soon enough. Or what happens if the internet is down or AWS is having a bad day? We may not get the insights we need in time to actually make a difference. First responders in disaster zones, they probably don't even have access to the internet. Cell towers are down. Satellites may be improving some of that. But again, we've got to send data that we're collecting, that we're seeing real time in the field, where we're trying to rescue people, where we're trying to help communities rebuild. And if we're having to send all that stuff up to a cloud LLM, A, that's going to be really expensive. Who's going to pay for it? And B, we can process all that data like right on the truck or the ambulance or the construction equipment that we're using in that situation. So we need to treat the cloud more as a convenience, not as a guarantee, because there is no guarantee. So we have a resilience gap because we built a generation of AI tooling that assumes always-on connectivity. And that's a fragile foundation for anything that truly matters. So why are we talking about this now? Well, we've reached an inflection point where models have shrunk. We're getting better quantizations. We're getting more proliferation of models, people building models. Our hardware has caught up, so now we can actually run AI workloads on your laptop, even on your phone in some cases, edge devices, commodity hardware, and we're seeing the tooling improve. It's handling more build complexity, fragmentation, it's getting better at model management. And so getting started is easy. All you have to do is choose a model, select a quantization, pick a runtime, grab a framework, maybe a database, get everything connected in a way that makes sense, deploy it all to production, and then we hope it works, right? But then what about errors or hallucinations? How do we monitor this thing? You basically have to become an AI expert, and it's overwhelming and complex, and it's almost impossible to figure out how to like tie all these pieces together. So that's why my team and I, in the open, fully open source, are building LlamaFarm, because we want to build local AI that just works, that's easy for anyone to get into, that helps guide them on the path of choosing those models, having some recommendations right out of the box, that's working with other pieces of the open source ecosystem to really build AI that we all can use without having to use the cloud, without having to send our data there, where we can do inference, we can do anomaly detection, and more. So you can focus on building that killer AI use case that's going to help people. We're building this on top of something we call a mixture of models. And if you remember back to DeepSeek coming out a year or so ago, they talked about mixture of experts, where kind of different parts of the model light up, different parts of the brain. We're doing something similar with models, where you can take IoT sensor data, run it through an isolation forest to do anomaly detection, send that to a BERT model for triage or classification, and then ultimately send that to a local LLM that's running on a GPU to do synthesis and give you actionable insights. So we get faster, private, and more resilient AI as a result by also picking the right model for each task. And notice that some of these can actually run on the CPU very quickly in a matter of milliseconds. Not everything has to be, like a huge GPU. And what you gain is everything works offline. It works anywhere. Doesn't matter whether we have a connection or not. We get predictable costs, so no big cloud bills ballooning out of control. And it's private by default, in addition to a myriad of other benefits. The workflow with LlamaFarm is pretty simple. You can get started by creating a LlamaFarm project file, start the dev server, and then it'll take care of the rest. It'll pull the models as needed. It'll actually detect your hardware and optimize things to run on your particular configuration, get inference going and other models, and then watch for code changes and help you as you develop that project. And then at the end, we're working on this even today, is helping you get that deployed to the environment of your choice where it makes sense for you. So join us in severing the tether. I hope you'll stop by github.com/LlamaFarm and support us by starting the repo. Try it out. We'd love to have your feedback and be part of the community and contribute back, because together we can build the future of AI at the edge. Thanks very much.
All right. Matt will be handing out fresh sourdough bread in the lobby after this with hand-churned llama butter. So check him out. All right. Next person on the agenda I'm excited about. I had a good conversation with Andre earlier. He's going to talk about voice and AI.
Good evening, everyone. I like to do a little bit of crowd participation when I speak, so just want everyone to wave back at me. All right, making sure everyone's still alive. Good deal. All right, so I want to get my presentation kicked off today. We're going to talk about voice AI in the real world. So who's familiar with voice AI in the crowd? Awesome, awesome. I see some hands. That's a good thing. Everyone should be familiar. Probably some bad implementations that what first comes to mind. Representative, this is terrible, right? And all kinds of fun things that everybody's been complaining to me about, clients that come to us, right? So typically, we've seen a lot of bad implementations of it, but voice AI in the real world is what we want to talk about. So we'll start out with the $1,500 problem. My wife and I, we used to run and own the U-Break iFix in Wake Forest. That was an awesome learning experience in entrepreneurship. And part of that is the $1,500 problem, right? So what happened to us in Wake Forest, busy Saturday mornings, tons of people in the lobby, right? You can imagine the phones are ringing off the hook. I'm in the back, the techs are in the back, we're all fixing stuff. Nobody can get to a phone. What would have been nice at that time as if we had a voice AI to pick up, schedule a meeting, or get it to the right person. That technology, well, for us, didn't exist at that time, right? But, if it did, we wouldn't have missed these sorts of things, right? So this prints the framework and basically goes into a few statistics. 62% of calls go unanswered during peak hours this is particularly for small businesses, right? This is who we typically service, small and medium-sized businesses. 85% of those callers never call back. So think about it for yourself, right? If you're on Google, you need a service done. I think Eli and I were just talking about this, right, a little bit earlier. You're going to call the next one up, whoever answers next. So particularly for small and medium businesses, this gives them an edge if they have these types of AIs that are working for them 24/7, so they can always be available when needed, when implemented correctly. In addition to that, lots of lost money, 126K. That's a figure to play with as well. So the tooling finally caught up. So in the beginning, voice AI was very, very slow. It was sluggish. You had a lot of latency. It wasn't fun to use. It wasn't really production ready. It's finally there now, right? So we used to have 2 to 3 second latency, and all that good stuff. And now we're at 100 to 300 milliseconds typically. And then it was less than 80% speech recognition accuracy before. And now we're looking at 95% plus, thanks to those LLMs and various things, right? So there are so many use cases. We typically target, again, the small and medium businesses, right, for inbound, outbound, making, various calls out in conjunction with chat agents that we build and email and all those sorts of things to keep the business running. But you can also, and we're looking into this, I know one of my partners is actually here, I can't see, Jason, we're looking into some things about, using voice AI to be a companion, because it can be used as well for people that can't necessarily talk to people, openly about certain things, not going into the HIPAA realm, but it can help and assist in various ways, right? So in addition to that, some people think, I don't know how many of you all have elderly family members in nursing rooms, that it would be awesome if they could talk to a voice AI. That could be a companion that keeps someone going. It keeps your will to live, and it's not weird and clunky anymore. I invite you guys to try it out. At the end, I'll give you a chance to, see how you can try our demo out and just talk to it, just to see what the technology is about, right? So we'll get back to the techie stuff. Let's see. Didn't hold my mouth quite right.
Nah, it's just the bar. You must have brushed it.
I got you. Thanks, Mark. All right. So the 300 millisecond rule. Human conversations operates in 300 to 500 millisecond response windows. If you go beyond 800 milliseconds, you lose that conversation, right? So you're looking at beyond 1.5 seconds. It feels like, those trash phone menus that we spoke about earlier, right? And we don't want that. Unfortunately, some companies still do have that, and it happens. So in addition to that, we're just going to talk about a little bit about the tech stack, right? We're going to dive a little bit into that. So we've got DeepGram, for speech to text. We've got Grok LLM, or LLM of your choice. Everyone, I'm sure, is familiar with all the LLMs that are available, right? 11 Labs for text to speech, which is not necessarily open source, but there are open source models as well for TTS. Several out there that I should have included in the slide, but we can definitely chat about if anyone's interested in those, and your total pipeline. So in addition to that, there are two sides of voice AI. I touched on a little bit earlier. You've got the inbound side and the outbound side, right? The inbound side is going to customer calls in, is very reactive, qualifies the leads, routes to departments, captures demand 24/7, books appointments, right? The outbound side is a little bit different. You have to be very careful with those use cases as far as outbound goes, because it can go off the rails. You don't want people upset at you for calling them all sorts of hours. You have to govern that. Governance is a huge thing with inbound as well as outbound. We want to make sure that we're using it safely. We want to make sure that we're calling the correct people and doing the correct things with that technology, because it's great power, but yet it's great responsibility as well. So the follow-up sequences, particularly with this shines for us, is that, hey, confirming appointments, right? So let's say you've got an HVAC company and you wanted to confirm that the next person is coming, the technician's coming out. Voice AI can do that for you. It can confirm that outbound technicians there. It can do NPS, right? Follow-ups as far as customer surveys and ensuring that, hey, this person did a good job. People are a little bit more open to chat and give you the real deal when you're on the phone versus through text. Text, you'll just click, give them a 5-star rating, 1, 2, 3, that's it. But voice, you get to expand and really find out what the deal is. Let's see, architecture at scale. Right, as I mentioned, we do this for small, medium, and enterprise businesses. Sub 10 employees is typically smaller businesses. 100 to 10 to 100 employees, medium, and 100 above, give or take, is the enterprise, and different tech stacks for each. So a little bit about the stack, right? STT, speech to text. Audio to text, a couple of technologies there are Whisper, DeepGram, and Vosk. LLMs, different LLMs. Everyone's familiar with that, I'm sure, as well. The GPTs of the world, the Claudes, the Llamas, the Groks, the Claude, which is my personal favorite. Got some orchestration going on with, each LLM calling the other to do some work. TTS, right, which is text to audio. Chatterbox, 11 Labs, as well as the telephony, so SIP trunking, Twilio, WebRTC, just to name a few, and like I said, orchestration as well. Gotcha. All right. And open source frameworks, LiveKits agents, PipeCat, and Vado. And we're going to get through with the Whisper frameworks. These are just a few frameworks as well that you guys can take a look at, take a picture of, feel free to screenshot it, and the harp. Yeah, sure thing. One more? Gotcha, no problem. Sorry to rush through, guys. I just wanted to be time conscious. All right, all good? Awesome. So the hard parts are integration, right? That's where the work is. 70% of the integration, 70% of the work goes to integration. Lots of latency issues, all that good stuff in the beginning. Things are a lot better now. Just to sum it up, in the interest of time, I will give this slide deck to anyone that's interested. And the hard parts continue. Scale changes everything. OpenAI, real time. So the money's flowing. My deck is a little bit long there, so we've got the money is flowing in. It's going crazy as far as voice AI and the market shares there. The stack is ready as well. Probably want to take a picture of that. And I would love to connect to everyone. And the next slide shows you exactly how to connect. We've got a few things there. We're looking for some talent with my team. So I will put up the QR code as well as the website to contact me. It has all my contact information. If you'd like to touch base, I'd love to touch base with each and every one of you. And thank you all for your time. Thank you, Todd, so much for putting this event together. And thank you, Mark, as well.
The first thing that came to mind, and this is how old I am, is I can automate prank calls like Bart Simpson with this technology. So the next guy that we have up is, and I'm saying guy because he is, in fact, Eli the computer guy. I'll give you a 2-minute and a 0, and the big button forward, the little button for that.
Okay. How do
If you brush anything, it'll bring up there, so just click on the background.
So what do I do? I just click.
It's all good, but if it freezes, just hit the background and click on it.
Okay, there we go. We'll see how this works. Okay, so the stack is dead. Long live the stack. I want to talk tonight about tech education in the age of AI. So I'm known as Eli, the computer guy. I've been doing technology since 1996 in the U.S. Army. I started off in electronic repair, got my MCSE and NT4 in 2000 in the corporate world, was a consultant, had my own company with employees, wound up on YouTube where I do tech education, where I have about 1.1 million subscribers. Currently, I do a project called Silicon Dojo. The idea is free to the end user, hands-on technology education that empowers my students to basically make the world a bit better place. And we focus a lot on AI topics because it's currently the cool, sexy stack. First thing that I want to talk about is AI isn't. This is one of the biggest problems that we have in the modern world right now. When I say AI, or I say the words artificial intelligence, what goes through your mind, right? You think about Terminator, you think about KIT, you think about HAL, you think about 1,000 movies you've seen from Hollywood. There's a whole tableau of stories about what artificial intelligence is. When I talk about Mamba 2, when I talk about Transformer, when I talk about vector databases or embedding, what do you think about? Probably not much, except for troubleshooting crap. The reason is because Mamba 2 and Transformer and LLMs are actual technology. AI is buzzwords marketing for billionaires to try to become trillionaires, and that's simply the reality. When you look at AI, it's just part of your stack. You're going to have a user interface, whether it's going to be a web interface, whether you're going to be talking to the thing, whether you're going to have sensors that are going to be pulling information in. All of that comes in. That goes back to a back end. That's going to be on an operating system, most likely Linux, which is going to have a back-end programming language, most likely Python, which is going to have data stores, which is going to have record stores, which is going to have API calls and MCPs, and all of this stuff that kind of sort of looks like the same kind of technology we've been dealing with for the past 30 years. So one of the big things that comes up is this whole question of, are tech jobs dead? This is one of the most bizarre concepts that I cannot get my mind around. I see very talented, very smart people say, Eli, why are you worried about tech education? Tech jobs are dead. I'm like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Think about this. What if your CEO decides to start vibe coding? What are you going to do? Quit your job now. Anyways, macro forces, you probably can't quit your job. You know, jobs are kind of hard to come by. So the next thing that you need to think about doing is building a vibe coding infrastructure that your CEO is not going to destroy. Create a database system where you cannot drop the darn database or drop the tables or alter the tables or update records or delete records. Simply signify that a record was deleted and keep it. Don't destroy it. So that if your CEO does something stupid, because they're going to, you can roll things back. Right? Where is your infrastructure? This was amazing. I was doing an interview with a CEO of a managed service providing company up in Canada. And we were talking about a multi-trillion-dollar infrastructure as a service provider. And I said, why don't you use them for your back-end infrastructure? And he said, well, interestingly enough, they do have a major data center in Canada. One. So the issue is when that data center replicates for resiliency, it all goes out of Canada in the modern world, right? Do you understand where your data resides? Not simply when you're using it, but also for things like replication and resiliency. Self-harm on corporate AI. I'm just going to say this, foreshadowing. I've done this crap for 30 years, foreshadowing. Now, we all have heard the stories about ChatGPT, and there's teenagers that go onto ChatGPT, and they ask ChatGPT very horrible things. Horrible things ensue, and OpenAI is getting sued. Thank golly, none of us work for OpenAI. Here's my question for any actual technology decision makers here. Right, we have all these AI systems with agents that understand calendars and all that kind of stuff. If one of your disgruntled employees gets onto your AI system and asks your AI system what the most efficient way to shoot employees in your company would be, would your AI system say, hey, Bob, the national sales team will be coming in 3 days. Access control will be down because they're salespeople. And so that would probably be the best way to get the job done. Now you're like, oh my golly, that's horrible. I'm using the proper LLM, so that would not work. But here's one of the questions with disgruntled employees. would you know in any single time period? Would you find out about that query after the event happened? Risk to OpenAI business model. Again, OpenAI, this is just going to be a disaster. Anyways, one of the things we think about with, again, things like APIs is service-oriented architecture. The entire concept with service-oriented architecture is that you can rip out a component and swap it with somebody else. Sam Altman does something stupid, put in Anthropic. Here's the issue with these LLMs. The returns that you're getting are not the same kind of formatted returns you will get from something like Twilio or a database system or whatever else. Do you know if the returns that you're going to get from Anthropic look the same as the returns that you get from OpenAI, and you could parse them properly? So the big thing to be thinking about with education and the rest of this is, what do we do? The reality is we do not write code as technology professionals. We don't run cable. We don't rack servers and the rest of it. What we do is we provide value to our organizations and companies. We either allow them to ship more widgets, or we basically make it so that it is cheaper in order for them to ship the widgets. So what's the problem, right? People are like, the tech industry is dead. Tech jobs are dead. So what's the problem? Well, the thing is, again, I've been doing this whole online thing since 2009. I do not recommend it for anybody. But I've been talking to my viewers since 2012. 2015, I started interacting with my viewers in person. I have literally had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of meetings with my viewers, with my students, whatever else. We talk about getting into the tech industry and the rest of it. Spoiler alert, it's always mommy-daddy issues. But beyond that, the interesting thing that I found is it was great. 10 years ago, the biggest problem out there was imposter syndrome. I miss imposter syndrome. It was wonderful. Because here's the thing with imposter syndrome. You know your job matters. You know your tasking matters. You know when you screw up, because you're gonna screw up, it's gonna hurt a lot of people, right? But the problem is, in the modern world, right, we've had hyperscaling. We've had this whole tech hyperscaling crap for the past decade. And the thing with that is lots and lots of people have been gotten hired, I don't know, for some reason. Again, when Meta can drop 10,000 people at a time, kind of questions what the value of those positions actually were. And so that's the reality. We have so many employees right now that don't understand the value of their jobs or even the tasks of what they're doing. They do it. But they don't understand. They don't understand the value of the company. Again, a lot of the companies that we're dealing with right now, they don't know why these companies exist. Hell, I don't know why half the companies exist. So we have this problem. We have these employees. They don't understand our economic system. They don't understand why the companies they work for exist. They don't understand why their jobs exist, and they're making a crap ton of money, while friends that they have that are just as smart are basically almost homeless. Is it any wonder when somebody says AI is going to take your job, they're like, well, yeah, that makes sense. Makes more sense than me making a lot of money doing whatever the hell it is that I'm doing. And so anyways, what I would say the answer is, in the world of AI, is back to basics. As some people would say, okay, boomer, I'm not, I'm Gen X. Go back to teaching business and solving problems through the lens of technological solutions. It's not so much about the products and the technologies. It's about what does the business do, what are the problems of the business, and how do you solve those problems with technology? Why does the work that you do matter? And actually explain that to employees, right? What is on the line for the success or failure of the work? If you do really well, who's gonna win? When you fail, who's going to lose? Do you actually feel that? Right? What are the system considerations for building the solutions? We had LlamaFarm here talking about local versus cloud. Why would you pick one or the other? And then thinking about what AI functionality can be used to increase efficiency. Think about this with how AI can localize software relatively easily. You have a company that's rapidly globalizing. There's a bunch of languages out there. They can simply add an LLM component to it, and all of a sudden, your application can be used in Swahili. So anyways, those are some things to think about. I'm not really sure where I am on the time. AI isn't going to take your job. Not keeping up with the steady march of progress will. And this is what we need to teach our students and also what we need to teach our employees.
So did you catch him say the word kit? Okay, for those of you who don't remember or weren't around, on Friday nights, there was the guy from Baywatch. His name was David Hasselhoff. David Hasselhoff, his name in the show was Michael. He had this amazing technology, a Trans Am that was self-driving. And that is what inspired Elon Musk, and that's what inspired Waymo. That last part I made up. Anyhow. All right. So the next person up, we have Buddha. He's going to talk about DevRel. And take it away, Buddha.
Hopefully it's not going to buzz while I'm talking. All righty. Oh, this is not daunting at all. The previous speakers made it very, very easy. Well done, everyone. But you know what? Being a DevRel person, I'm going to do this anyway. So let's take us through this journey. Thank you so much for being here. This is going to be the penultimate talk for this evening. And in the course of the next 10 minutes, we're going to be exploring this curious, exciting, fascinating, sometimes challenging world of AI and DevRel. So before we go any further, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to put my foot down and definitively say this once and for all, pretty much in the words of what Eli just mentioned, which is AI is not going to replace DevRel. DevRel as a function is not going away today, it's not going away tomorrow, it's not going away in 2026 for matter. So what is the question that we are actually going to be looking into? So the question then becomes, but is it you and me that's going to get replaced? Or is it going to replace you and me as people within this function? And that's what we're going to be exploring today, hopefully from a lens of a slightly more optimistic perspective. With that, hey, I am Buddha, Director of Product Ecosystem at Tyke and the board chair of the Open API Initiative. What you need to know about me is, A, I am a big fan of horror and musicals. If you want to talk about that, I'll be very happy to do so. But apart from that, in my 15 years as part of this DevRel function in official, unofficial capacity for hardware, for software, for internal audiences, external audiences, what I found out is that every DevRel story has three key components. There is a degree of curiosity, there is a degree of connection, and there is a degree of authenticity. And as it turns out, these are inherently human characteristics. So with that in mind, let's talk about the human aspects of things and how we react to changes. Typically, when we think about changes, we react in three potential ways. There is the curiosity and excitement aspect of things, there is the apathy aspect of things, and there is the fear and skepticism. I'm going to get rid of apathy because apathy and DevRel do not gel well. So I'm going to get rid of that altogether. You need to have an opinion. You need to think about whether it's a good or bad thing. So let's talk about the curiosity aspect of things in the context of AI in this case, where you could be curious and excited about all the different possibilities. What can we do together? What can we build? What are the new avenues that are going to be opened up by using these different tools? But on the other end, there is the fear and skepticism part is, what is going to happen now? Is my job going to go away? Am I going to get replaced? Is it going to be a human replacing me? Is it going to be AI replacing me? These are valid emotions. I don't want to say one thing is better than the other, but let's see if we can shift that needle from that fear and skepticism towards curiosity and excitement. So if you have to picture, let's go back to what makes a good DevRel. If you have to picture an ideal candidate of a person who's working within DevRel, the one thing that matters the most is adaptability. You can think about sort of being able to speak, to present, to have the technical skills, the writing skills, but adaptability is what makes you stand out. And adaptability is actually, when you boil it down, paired with empathy a little bit, it comes down to two very specific things, which is understanding the changes and understanding the impact of the changes that are happening, the evolution that is taking place, and updating the DevRel playbook or creating a new one altogether. It is that simple. So with that in mind, let's look at the changes that are happening today in this particular space. So let's understand the changes. I'm going to talk about three things. There might be a few more, but let's talk about the three things to begin with. Now, first of all, as the name suggests, DevRel is usually about developers, but what's happening is that our audience is now changing. We are no longer working exclusively with engineers and developers and people with backgrounds in software engineering and computer science, we are moving towards what I call the builder experience, where now you've got vibe coders, you've got developers, you've got product managers, you've got designers. My wife, who studies PhD in economics in Duke, is building applications to analyze data, and I am not ashamed to say she's doing a bit better job than I potentially could at this point of time. But that's what we need to be, that's what we need to understand, that the experiences are changing. It's now moving away from just pure developers to builders due to the ubiquity of the tools that are available at our disposal. Second, the content consumption pattern is changing as well. So earlier, when we were creating content pieces, whether that is documentation or blogs or videos, typically we had a very human-centric approach to that. But now that's shifting towards a more agentic-centric approach. Let's call it AI-centric approach for the time being, because there might be a few different terminologies associated here. So if today you're thinking about creating documentation, it has to be machine readable, because the way people are consuming your content and interacting with what you're building and how they're building, it's usually a combination of that IDE with a potential co-pilot. In some cases, it's an LLM or a chat-based interface that is surfacing these pieces of content, as opposed to you having to go to a search bar or to a doc site to do so. Which also means that the metrics of success are also evolving as well. Now, I can go into a few of these different things, but the one that probably stands out the most is the distinction between SEO, which is your search engine optimization, where previously you were looking at your clicks and your ads and how things are getting ranked based on domain authority. Now you're shifting towards this AEO model, which is a little bit more about answer engine optimization, where now you have to think about how your content is getting serviced based as a response to a query on a chat-based interface. So think about your mentions, think about your citations. That becomes a lot more valuable. Think about the referrals. That becomes way more valuable than SEO, and there are tools that might be able to help you do that, but the metrics landscape is changing. So with that in mind, let's talk about the AI-augmented DevRel playbook. It's a long-winded name, but the idea is we need to have a plan, we need to work towards how we can actually enhance the power that AI is providing us to build a better playbook that's going to help us succeed. So a few key points, because time tends to be short here. So let's start off with the why. It is the very basics once again. I think Eli again mentioned this just before. Think about the business objectives. What is the problem that you're solving? What is the why behind it all? And figure out how to articulate it. Maybe pair up with an AI bot to help you out to do that. I usually start thinking about bullet points, and that's kind of the ideation part that comes in first, and then to be able to articulate it and present it to different stakeholders, speaking in different tones. We pair up pretty well with one of the many LLMs that exist. Usually it's ChatGPT or Claude in my case. Then let's think about the roles and responsibility in this case, where think about what you can do and what you want to do and what do you want to delegate to AI in this case. In my case, it's about having a strategy, having a plan, having a vision, creating a campaign that is going to achieve an output or an outcome that I can probably report back on, and then using AI to actually amplify that. Things that I don't enjoy doing, things I enjoy doing, present, create video content. Things I hate doing, writing blog posts, long-winded documentation. Very important, you should do it, but it is difficult for me to do that. So that's how we pair up there. It's about becoming that content curator, learning while you're educating yourself, learning, sharing, adding a degree of vulnerability to that, and then repeating that because it's going to be beneficial for the others in the industry. Think about your community insights as well. There's a lot of, if you have a thriving community, there's a lot of insights that are hidden there. And as a person trying to decipher all of that, or maybe even a team of people, that can take a long time. That can be very difficult. With the help of AI, those insights can turn into engagement. And that's what we want to bring to the table here. Similarly, we can identify better trends in the market and be able to report back on the business impact, because your data, which was siloed earlier on, can be connected better with a better story associated with it. And that's where the value of you as a DevRel function to the business comes into the forefront. And finally, very important part of this conversation, human in the loop is still very, very important. You still have to evaluate while you're delegating. You still need to be the person who is making sure that things that are going out to the world are not just wipe-coded on a whim, but it's actually production ready. You still think about things like governance and security and observability. They can be simplified, but they cannot be eliminated, and you should be part of that loop, understanding exactly where you fit into that narrative. So now with all of that being said, pretty much I can finally take a breath here. The question that we asked right at the beginning is AI going to replace you and me as part of this function? And the answer definitively, once again, is going to be no. But we need to evolve. We need to adapt, and the adaptation playbook essentially starts with the objectives and using and reframing the question from what is AI going to take away from me to what will it help me unlock tomorrow. So with that in mind, thank you so much for listening. Hopefully this gives you a better idea about how we can reframe the fear and sort of the skepticism towards something that is a bit more hopeful and exciting as we step into the world of 2026. So feel free to connect with me here. I'm happy to talk more about this playbook and how we can explore a few more things a little bit more practically. Thank you so much for listening and having me here.
I was going to steal that phone, Andre. All right. Last but not least, we have Maria here from GitHub to talk about AI and accessibility. But before we do that, I just want to say I did DevRel for most of my career. To get 100 or actually even 2 developers to agree on anything is an amazing feat. So thanks for talking about that, Buddha. So Maria, take it away.
Alrighty, hello everybody. Give me 1 second. Ooh, let me just, I'm way shorter than the rest of the speakers. All right, here we go. Hey everybody, my name is Maria Lamardo. I am a Senior Accessibility Program Manager at GitHub. And today I would like to explore how the widespread adoption of AI-powered code generation tools, such as GitHub Copilot, is transforming software development and creating new opportunities to improve accessibility at scale. So AI-powered code generation tools are rapidly transforming development workflows. And today, it's no longer a novelty, it's the norm. According to the 2025 DORA report, 90% of developers use AI code generation. So even a small improvements in AI tools in terms of accessibility can have broad, amplified impact across projects and, more importantly, users. By a show of hand, how many of you use AI in your jobs today? Oh yeah, that's pretty much the majority. All right, so here's the big idea. Every tweak you make to your AI setup impacts every project, every developer, and most importantly, every user. And in this presentation, I want to share 2 calls to actions to help you ensure accessibility is built in everywhere by default. The first call to action is I want to encourage you to set up custom accessibility instructions or system prompts, configurations in whatever AI code assistant you're using. You can direct your AI code assistant to always generate more accessible code in just a few minutes of setup. At GitHub, we created a guide with a set of instructions to help you set up these custom instructions to shape GitHub Copilot's behavior within your organization or your repo. So our first tip is to specify the standards, tools, or workflows that your team uses when writing these custom instructions. So for example, you can state that you follow WCAG 2.2 level AA, which is what is recommended by the industry. This way, GitHub Copilot knows which version to reference when it's reviewing front-end changes. Our second tip is to specify which design system GitHub Copilot should follow and record any updates, deprecations, or any caveats in your custom instructions. For example, you can say, deprecated button should not be used. Instead, use this new accessibility button. Let's say those are components. Most large language models, including GitHub Copilot, respond better to normative terms like should, must, may. So make sure to include these words to reduce ambiguity and clarify instructions what is mandatory versus optional. So here's an example. A keyboard shortcut must use at most 4 simultaneous keys, and this is great for accessibility. My last tip will be to, like normative language, clear, structured lists help LLMs behave predictably. So lists serve as guardrails to keep both AI and developers focused when solving problems. And this example shows requirements in a checklist. A numbered list could work as well. So GitHub Copilot can follow these steps to avoid what is missing in the accessibility criteria. And if you're using another different tool, don't worry. You can adapt these instructions to your tool. Now let's go over some of the don'ts. Because LLMs are trained on a wide-ranging internet data, they already know a lot of the standards like WCAG. So pasting WCAG verbatim into your prompts is usually ineffective. By default, GitHub Copilot does not access external links in custom instructions, so instead you can add necessary instructions and guidelines directly into your instructions. You can always reference links for your human readers, and this will not interact or affect GitHub Copilot. GitHub Copilot also cannot access private repo content unless the content is available within the repo that it is running. Here is a link to that guide that I just spoke about, so you can find all of these instructions in that guide. Whether you work by yourself or on a big team, you raise the accessibility baseline of every file you touch by using AI. Using something else, again, adapt these recommendations to your tool. And my next call to action is going to be to automate accessibility checks in your CI/CD. At GitHub, we use our accessibility scanner, which I'll be going over today. So this will play with no sound, but at GitHub, we use the scanner. This is called the accessibility scanner, which uses AxScore to scan accessibility issues. It uses GitHub Actions to create trackable GitHub issues and optionally assign those issues to Copilot to be fixed. After running the scan, you can see what potential issues were found, and all of these issues were filed as GitHub issues. As shown in this issue, it found a color contrast in the time element, and it explains why it is a problem and lists out acceptance criteria on how to fix it. Since the issue was assigned to Copilot, it automatically opened a pull request with a proposed fix. So let's review that. Copilot edited a file to change our color. If you want to learn more about why it did that and how it came to that conclusion, you can open the task view, and you can see and access a summary of what Copilot did. And if you scroll back, you can see how it came up with that solution and what it did to implement it. However, if you wanted Copilot to use a specific color from your theme, you can either add mention Copilot with specific instructions or set instructions that apply to all pull requests by adding a .github Copilot instructions markdown file. And that's the accessibility scanner. The accessibility scanner is available on GitHub Marketplace. It is also open source with an MIT license, so feel free to fork it and adapt it to your unique DevOps process. So to recap, the scanner will scan for accessibilities issues using AxScore. It will file GitHub issues using GitHub Actions, and optionally, you can use GitHub Copilot to open PRs with proposed changes, and there's going to always be a human in the loop to approve those changes before merging. I encourage you to review the README files for tips on how to set this up and run the scanner. Just a note that this scanner is currently in public preview, so we're welcoming all feedback. Also, keep in mind that this is automated accessibility testing, which is great for catching common and repeatable issues, but we really encourage you to do some manual testing as it cannot validate real user experience, like determining what's actually meaning for alt text, or the correct keyboard or focus functionality on your site, or screen reader usability dynamic flows. So always pair with manual testing on key flows. And because the AI code generation is universal, developers have a great opportunity to make accessibility universal, uplifting every project and product touched by AI. So let's face it, almost every project is using them, just in this room alone. So by integrating accessibility-focused instructions, automating checks, you can help every project you touch, making accessibility a standard practice rather than the exception. So you can make technology more inclusive for everyone. And here are some helpful resources, and the slides will be shared by Todd after this. But I want to thank our accessibility team at GitHub, particularly Kendall Gassner, Clay Miller, Abdul Adman, Helen, Husai, and the rest of the team. So thank you all so much.
Okay, so we're good. Okay,
perfect.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for staying around. It is 8:04, so I promised we'd be wrapped up by 8 o'clock. We're 4 minutes over. Please don't hold that against us. We can go out into the lobby and network for the next 15 to 20 minutes or so, if that's okay with you. You're free to, once we release you, once we leave the theater here, you're more than welcome to go as well. That's totally okay. Let me just wrap up with a couple of announcements. I do want to thank our speakers again. I'll ask our speakers to stay around. If we could just get one group photo, that would be amazing. Just all together, that would be an amazing thing. Also, our next meetup is February the 10th, which is a Tuesday evening. It'll be at Wake Tech in Mooresville. So we're going to make that announcement tomorrow. Be on the lookout for that as well. We've got the AI conference. I know Mark mentioned that coming up in March. Be sure to check that out. If you take a look at ticket, we always keep things very accessible from a pricing standpoint. We never want to be the conference that prices out quote unquote normal people that want to attend an event. We've really bent over backwards to make our events as accessible from a price perspective as possible. If you need a discount or if you need a free pass or something along those lines, please reach out to us directly and let us know. Tomorrow, I think we're going to make an announcement on the website for scholarships and discounts and things like that, so be on the lookout for that as well. Mark, thank you for being a great speaker, a good friend. Thanks for emceeing and kind of keeping everything on track tonight. And again, thanks to all of our speakers. If you're here for the first time, thank you again, a sincere, heartfelt thank you for being here. I hope you'll join us in the future. I hope you'll attend a conference or a meetup. And then if you want to help or volunteer, we're always looking for people to engage with us and to help us make this stuff possible. I'll give you just one example. I'll end on this. For the All Things Open conference in October, it takes us more than every year 125 volunteers to make that event possible. So we work with a large number of people, and it would not be possible without our volunteers. And the same goes for the AI event in March as well. I don't know the exact number of volunteers that we worked with for the AI event this past March, but it was a large number. It was more than 50 to make that event possible, and I think it'll be more than 100 this year. So in exchange for volunteering, you get a free conference pass, you get a t-shirt, and you get a free lunch. So it's a pretty good deal in exchange for a 3 or 4 hour shift. Anyway, something to keep in mind. Be on the lookout for the call for volunteers announcement that'll be coming out very soon. Thank you all very much.